Thank you for joining us today for the Hollis T. Williams video walkthrough. My name is Terry Berry and I am the Restore Division Manager with Escambia County. I have with me today Alan Vincent with HDR and Madison O'Toole with Escambia County. The Hollis T. Williams project is a joint project between the City of Pensacola and Escambia County. The Hollis T. Williams project is funded through Restore direct component allocation. This project will transform the I-110 underpass between Maxwell Street and Wright Street, which is about 1.3 miles, into an urban green space. Some of the project goals include improving flooding and water quality, providing recreational opportunities, displaying public art, and reflecting on area history. The team has accomplished a lot since the first video in April 2021. For example, the skate park has been completed and construction is supposed to start this August. 90% plans for the remainder of the park are completed and permitting has begun. Today, Alan and Madison will be talking about the different programmed areas in the park. And with that, I'll hand this over to Madison.
As Terry mentioned earlier, Alan has actually completed a video walkthrough for this project before. So if you're interested in viewing it, it's available on the Escambia County YouTube page. And that was really filmed when our plans were in an early, more conceptual phase, but we are now approaching total completion of the planning phase, which is why we are here now. And as somebody who is quite literally in close proximity to this project, you could consider me a personal stakeholder. Now, Alan, if you don't mind, could I ask you to give us a little overview of this project? And this project's quite heavily inspired by the area that it's being constructed on. So could you give us a little background of this site and maybe the history that has inspired this?
Yeah, so in the late 1970s, the interstate was expanded into downtown Pensacola, or at least an interstate spur, I-110. And in order to do that, DOT had to remove a section of houses, basically a block wide, through this area that basically runs from the north end, Maxwell Street, down to the south end, which is Wright Street. So that's known as now as the Lost Neighborhood. There's actually some placards, memorials out there to remind the public of that area. As you continue through the project, there are some activities like such as the swimming pool that exists nowadays. There's Loaves and Fishes, which is a homeless shelter, and then there's also the Pensacola Police Department, as well as a community garden there near the south end. So the project length is about 1.3 miles. I think Terry mentioned that earlier. It covers about 30 acres. So there's a lot of opportunity now to take and activate a space which was sort of deleted back when the interstate came through.
Awesome, and this really ties in with the northernmost segment of the park, which is the reflection phase. This also contains the first of 5 cultural exhibits that are planned throughout the park. So could you describe the vision for that area a little bit?
Yeah, so the reflection area of the park, it really lends itself, the layout lends itself to what this area used to be. So it was a block broken up by several homes, and so what we have planned for that block is a neighborhood history exhibit, as well as boundaries showing the original property boundaries. Now, if you look at the image here at the bottom, you can see that we laid out the block based on old aerials, which covered the historic home sites. As you continue through the park, you can see the yellow greenway trail that has markers along the way, and those will actually be marking the boundaries and locations of the previous residences that were located throughout the project.
Mm-hmm. And this intersects with the action segment of the park, which also happens to be the largest, if you would like to start talking about that.
Yeah, so the action section of the park, just to give a little background, was probably the most heavily utilized piece of the park. It's open field space. You'll notice the football field goals that are located in that area. So the Maggie Field Rattlers actually utilize that space for football practices. They don't play there, but they do practice there. And so there could be as many as 200 kids during football season in that area. And along with 200 kids comes parents, comes siblings, a lot of people needing something to do. And so first off, we wanted to keep with sort of the theme of that area and consider the fact that these multi-use fields are needed. So we included several locations for multi-use fields. Now to give the others something to do, we've included a fitness loop that goes around the largest of those fields, as well as a youth obstacle course, again, to give the younger siblings something to do. So as we continue on to the south, you'll see that we also included a brand new state-of-the-art playground. That playground will feature a landmark pelican play structure, as well as restrooms, and then there's also a fitness circuit area, again to give the older kids something to do. So we really tried to think about all the needs for that space, considering how it's used now. And as we continue on to the south, the existing pavilion will remain as it is now. And then we did add a sand volleyball court to go along with the existing basketball courts, as well as the tennis courts that are there now. You'll see a dog park that we've included adjacent to that space. It is a fenced dog park, and within the dog park, we've thought about the fact that you'll have large dogs and small dogs, so those areas are fenced off as well. And then continuing on to the end of that action section, you can see that we get into the pool parking lot area, and the existing swimming pool facility is actually being renovated right now as we speak. So you could even say we're kind of getting started.
That's really great. And now we have the connection area a little further south than that, which contains some very interesting features. There's a small skate spot, we have the amphitheater, and there's also the Overlook Pond, which happens to contain our second cultural exhibit. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so this was the amphitheater block was probably the only block that had absolutely nothing on it through the park limits there. And so this is located between the swimming pool facility and Loaves and Fishes. There's a lot of grade across the site. So, again, this being a connection section, we thought there were a lot of ways to make that connection to the park with bringing people together with an amphitheater. That amphitheater could be utilized by the neighborhood, or it could be utilized for larger events. And then up above that amphitheater, you see that we've designed in a splash pad for all ages, as well as another restroom facility located nearby. Continuing on to the south, next to Loaves and Fishes, there was some space left over that we could put in another skate spot. Now this skate spot won't look like the skateboarding park, but it'll be a place that you can sit with skatable benches. So then continuing on into the connection space, you'll see the Overlook Plaza, which will include our second cultural exhibit. There's a lot of opportunity in that plaza to include sculptural art into some of the space. And then the Overlook Pond itself is actually a multi-tiered pond that it's just the intent of the space is to be inviting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that Overlook Plaza pond appears to be really the most prominent stormwater treatment feature really in the whole park. And I'd like to dive into that a little bit more, if we could maybe talk about some of the other stormwater treatment features that are being featured in the park, how they kind of work, and maybe even some numbers to go along with that.
Yeah, so as you've kind of seen along the way, all the stormwater features within the park itself are labeled in blue. There are several rain gardens. Rain gardens are nice landscaped areas that are meant to peel off the stormwater runoff and treat it in shallow areas. But this block, the Overlook Plaza and the pond associated with it consists of about 9 acre-feet of capacity. And what that will do is actually take stormwater runoff that's coming from Lloyd Street that basically goes into the DOT system and directly discharges in Pensacola Bay and provides a place to treat that stormwater runoff to improve water quality. So this is the single biggest feature within the park limits. It'll treat about 100 acres of runoff, as well as provide some attenuation to the existing drainage system. Attenuation being we slow down the rate at which water enters the environment downstream. So.
Awesome. So as we move down to this segment between Gonzales and Cervantes, we get to the inspiration segment of the park. It contains a third cultural exhibit and also some really interesting art features, if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, so basically once we got south of Gonzales Street, south of Gonzales Street, in between the two interstate bridges, you have the city maintenance yard. And so, you only have about half of that block to work with. So what we wanted to do is create sort of a tunnel corridor where, loaded with art, which again, as you mentioned, is our third cultural exhibit. But one of those features is a low seating wall that can contain art, and then sculpture locations along those limits. And then to shield the city's maintenance yard, you could actually have plywood art panels, and so that could be a storyboard timeline. It could just be other community artists coming out, and these panels are removable, so you could change it out from time to time. And then as you approach Cervantes Street, again, that's a state road. We're working with the existing pedestrian crossing that's there now, and then we continue the 12-foot path along the side of the police station.
And now we are approaching the southernmost area of the park, which is the integration phase. And we have a ton of stuff going on there, including the last two of the cultural exhibits planned throughout the park. And some of it will actually be breaking ground soon, if you'd like to take the lead on that, Alan.
Yeah, that's right, Madison. So as we continued our path across Cervantes, again, we're left with another tight space, working our way around the existing police department. But we are able to widen that path out to 12 feet to keep a consistent path through the project limits. Then as we get south of Jackson Street, there's a lot of excitement over the skate park that's coming. It's actually expected to break ground August 2022 and take about a year to construct. But the remainder of that site is occupied by the existing community garden, who've been a great partner to work with in all this, along with the skating community. And as we look around the edges of the park, this section of the park will only include the skate park as of right now, but in the future we will supplement that with parking areas as well as an additional restroom facility. And so then continuing to the south, we move into our fourth cultural exhibit, which is the Market Plaza. And so you might be thinking, well, how is the Market Plaza a cultural exhibit? Well, it's interpretive. It's what we're putting within it. And so you can see the cross feature that's located in the Market Plaza. That's meant to represent the churches that were impacted through the limits of the project area when the interstate was built. And that's something that we can memorialize in that space. And then the vendor booths in the Market Plaza are actually intended to replicate old rail cars. And the railroad was a very important to the community during this time frame that the area was inhabited. And so then continuing across the existing railroad tracks, we enter into the South Gateway, which is our fifth cultural exhibit within the park limits. And again, we have another opportunity to recognize the neighborhood's history, especially with regards to the railroad track like we were talking about there in the Market Plaza block. And just it's a place of reflection and a place to start your adventure through the Hollis T. Williams Park.
All right, and that really brings us to the end of our walkthrough. Thank you, Alan, so much for coming out and speaking with me today. We really look forward to seeing how any of this turns out, and stay tuned for any updates. I'll pass this back to Terry now.
Thank you guys for an excellent discussion. And I'm going to wrap up with the final steps. Final plans and permitting are expected to be completed in August and September this year. The city is currently looking into grant opportunities for construction funding. This video will be posted on the Escambia County webpage at myescambia.com. Thank you and have an awesome day.